What's going on, everybody? Welcome to a little bit different edition here. We're not going to be talking specifically DFS. I know that the fantasy playoffs is something that is on everyone's mind. So, what I wanted to do today is I kind of wanted to run through my top plays at each position, talk about some guys that I think um, are good plays. And maybe some sneaky pickups and stuff like that as well. So definitely just wanted to hop on, um, talk a little bit, kind of talk through it myself. Um, really, it's just going to be a sneak into my process and what I do for my season long stuff. But really, wanted to open this forum up for people for a chance to ask some questions. If you don't have a whole lot going on this morning or this afternoon, wherever you might be, it's almost noon at certain areas of the country. Um, yeah, feel free, hop in, check it out. I'm just getting over here. While I'm going to share this out to a few of my groups on Twitter, just wanted to mention that we are still being um, supported by Manscaped. Look, we're almost close here. It's the 22nd. I don't know how quickly Manscaped can get some shipping into the mail, but 20% off. Zone 20 gets you free shipping and 20% off with the code Zone20 at manscaped.com. Definitely got some great products over there. I would go check it out. Um, they've got stuff outside of just um, lawnmower 4.0, all that good stuff. They got kind of everything. So yeah, manscaped.com, code is Zone20, and let's get right into it. So guys, so what we're going to do is I am going to be using here, let me get this off of here. I'm going to be using my site that I use for DFS, but I do like to use this, and I've had good success over the last couple of years of using this for season long purposes. And you may not have all of these people, but it's a good, good kind of judge for us to go through and take a look. Now, keep in mind, I understand that a lot of people play in a lot of different season long formats. This is the typical DraftKings scoring. So that's full point PPR, 4 point per touchdown, 6 point per rushing touchdown. Okay. I'm also going to pull up over here so I can take a look at it, my overall projection. So I think that the big question is, I think Josh Allen this week. I don't think that you should shy away from playing Josh Allen. I don't think that the weather in Buffalo is going to be, or I'm sorry, in Chicago where they're playing, it is going to be cold. It's going to be a little bit windy, but outside of that, he's going to be just fine. If you've gotten to this point in the playoffs so far, I don't think that Josh Allen is somebody that you should be sitting right now. He has a base projection of 24.3, which is fantastic. If you're going to take a look at what his ceiling is, that's a super attractive ceiling if you're trying to win a fantasy championship, 34.26. I mean, if we kind of rank, I ranked my top 12, um, outside based off of my projections. I actually like Josh Allen number one just because of his rushing upside. Patrick Mahomes is a really close number two this week for me. Justin Fields at number three just because his rushing upside and he's going to be playing back the other way. Now, it's an interesting thing because you look at, these projections and, it doesn't Fields doesn't look great on here, but it's really just the rushing upside that I like Fields for. He's got a pretty high ceiling. Um, I think that he's going to have to run the ball quite a bit. Buffalo's defense is not very good, so I think that you could definitely get in there and go for it a little bit. Um, I really do like Burrow this week. Herbert's great. Cousins, Lawrence. Now we start to get into some decisions. Trevor Lawrence is going to be tough because he is playing in a bad weather game. It doesn't look like the weather's going to be great there. Tua, Geno Smith, I think, is a really sneaky play this week. I don't know how available he is in a ton of leagues, but they're playing the Chiefs. Chiefs don't have a great defense. Now, unfortunately, Geno Smith is going to be missing Tyler Lockett, but I think he's still somebody that you can get to and be successful with this week. Tom Brady, I think, is a really good spot. He's actually surprisingly available in quite a few leagues, and I think he has a really nice floor. He's got a base projection of about 19 to 20 points, but I think he's got a pretty high ceiling, and Tampa Bay has to win. And Tampa Bay hasn't been playing well. So I think that they're really going to kind of hop on board and do quite a bit of damage here versus very, very, very poor Cardinals team. So that's kind of, that's kind of just my thoughts on those guys. You scroll down here a little bit. I think Aaron Rodgers, I saw him available in still some leagues if he is, and you need a start, great. Here's the big guy that everybody is now talking about, Gardner Minshew. If you were able to pick him up, that's fantastic. If you're a Hurts owner, I think if you're a Hurts owner, I love the fact that now he's already been discussed and announced by Sirianni as a starter. As a Hurts owner myself, I was a little concerned because I thought that they were going to get, really, really close to, to maybe giving it as a toss-up or waiting to the last second. That the fact that they announced it today really does make me comfortable as a Hurts owner picking up Minshew to just play Minshew and kind of go on with it. I think his base projection is frankly a little bit low. I think that Dallas is going to do what they can to make them throw the ball as much as possible. Now the Eagles could lean on Miles Sanders a little bit, but they get Dallas Goedert back, which I think is a big asset to Minshew. So, if you're a Hurts owner and you're concerned, I think I would just play Minshew over some of these other guys. If you're struggling, there's some other guys that we can talk about down here. Obviously, Brock Purdy is an interesting conversation. I think he's a pretty safe guy where if you're just looking to I just need to guaranteed get like 12 to 17 points. I think he's probably a great bet for that. The Commanders have a pretty good run defense, and I think the Niners are going to have to throw the ball a little bit. So I really like that. And then the guy I like too, if you're in a deeper league and you just can't get to some of these guys, is going to be Sam Darnold. I think, obviously he's playing at home. He's playing Detroit. It's going to be a little bit cooler, but that's okay. I really like him at home. He's going to throw the ball around quite a bit. Again, this is it probably in a 12 to 14 team league. Maybe you need a second QB into Superflex. He's going to be the option down in the quarterback rankings that I like the most for a cheap quarterback. I would rather play Darnold over a Malik Willis, Trace McSorley. I just don't know exactly what Willis is going to do. And frankly, I don't know that he's going to have to do very much versus Houston. I think they're going to give Derrick Henry the ball quite a bit. That game's a slow game environment. Yes, you could play Malik Willis. He's probably out there and available, and he has some rushing upside. And then kind of the bottom is Desmond Ridder. Didn't look fantastic last week. Again, this is really stretching. And, if you have a league where people kind of gobbled up a ton of quarterbacks and you're in a tough spot, great. But my overarching thing, we were kind of talking about it earlier in one of the group chats, like if you have a premium quarterback, I don't really care what the weather is like, what anything else is like. just play your studs, right? Don't overcomplicate it. You're in the fantasy playoffs. You're in the second round, semifinal. Just don't overcomplicate it. Play your studs. Go from there. All right. Let's take a look at our running back rankings for this week. And I am going to sort this by base projection as well. So, as we talked about, Derrick Henry has our best base projection. The way that I ranked the running backs this week is pretty dead on with how their projections are here, aside from so I got Henry, McCaffrey, Jacobs, Eckler, and the deviation here, I like Barkley quite a bit more than these guys. I think his base projection here is pretty low. And just based on how their offenses run, I love Saquon this week. Ramondre is my 7th ranked. Nick Chubb, I know he's been letting us down, but the type of volume, you're just going to have to go back there. Kenneth Walker, I think, is in a really good spot versus the Chiefs this week. And Tony Pollard, Miles Sanders, who I think they have to lean on, and then Joe Mixon. So those are the top 12 running backs. If we kind of go down through here and look, Jeff Wilson, it looks like he is going to be back, but I still think that if you're looking for like an really solid RB2 or a really good flex, I think Raheem Mostert presents a really good option at that spot. Even if Wilson plays, I think that he's going to probably not play, a ton. Nick Chubb, we'll go through some of the injuries here real quick. A.J. Dillon, concussion, he's likely going to be in. Jeff Wilson, hip, he is likely in. Damian Harris is still questionable. So, again, I really like Ramondre was questionable all the way up until the Raiders game last week as well. I really still like Ramondre quite a bit. Khalil Herbert, questionable. Jonathan Taylor obviously is out for the rest of the season, just if we didn't know that. We do now. So running back is interesting this week. The top guys are pretty easy. I think that Raheem Mostert, who may be out there for you to pick up, is a good, really good option. It's interesting that Zach Moss's projection is kind of bumped up a little bit. Obviously with, it looked like he was going to be the guy to get most of the goal line carries. If you're in a deeper league, I think that might be interesting for kind of a flex play. Miles Sanders, again, his base projection is pretty low. I think that him and Ken Walker, their base projections, I think, are a little bit too low. I think that they're going to be in some pretty good situations this week, along with Isaiah Pacheco, who didn't love last week. Didn't do a lot, but I don't think that we are going to see a third Jerick McKinnon spike week this week. Certainly possible. Jerick McKinnon is very involved in the offense, but if you have Isaiah Pacheco, I think he's a guy that you can roll out there and play in your season long, kind of no problem. DeAndre Swift and D'Onta Foreman are my two from that Carolina game that I really like. I think J.K. Dobbins is a really interesting, like if you have him or, and you're kind of sitting on him, he is, in my opinion, going to be the bell cow and get the lion's share of the carries. Lamar is not coming back, I don't think. He's questionable. I would expect Lamar not to play. If he does or doesn't, I like J.K. Dobbins a little bit more, actually, if Lamar doesn't play. Even if Lamar plays, I don't think he's going to be running around quite as much. So that base projection of 10.6 is, I personally think it's a little bit low. I think you could slot J.K. in there for, I think he performs closer to this 14 to 19 point range that we see right here. And let's pull up the color scale as well. It kind of sometimes helps a little bit. Cam Akers is in not a great spot versus Denver. Um, Antonio Gibson, same thing. Not a great spot. Now, the one thing about Antonio Gibson is if the Commanders do get behind, he has been getting a lot of the passing down work. So that's an interesting thought. I think James Cook is somebody that you probably have to consider as a flex or an RB2, depending on the depth of your league. Not really sure, if he is somebody that you really like, but I think that's it. Cordero Patterson, again, his usage has kind of gone up and down. Brian Robinson Jr., like I said, I think the Niners are going to handle this game pretty good. And then the big guy is Tyler Algier. His base projection, very low, but it was very, very clear last week that they were more than willing to give him the ball quite a bit. Now, is that just going to be a hot hand thing? I don't know. I personally didn't go out in my leagues and try and pick up Tyler Algier. I don't really like to chase kind of an unknown player like that. I understand that he absolutely, was the bell cow last week and put up some really good numbers, but that's not something I don't think that I can go chase. Then we're really getting down to some very interesting plays here. As maybe some flex plays here. I think Jordan Mason might be interesting for a pickup. If you want to try and grab him, let's see what the latest update on Jeff Wilson is. Let's see here. Let me pull up a different site and I can see, because I really do like Raheem Mostert against the Packers. Their pro defense, it's just like one of those things where their run defense is just terrible. So, especially if Jeff Wilson hits, I think that you kind of have to go kind of all in. So let's look at some of the injury news. Ankle, Ken Walker, Hurts, obviously. So no updated reports on on Jeff Wilson as of today. So, I like I said earlier, I think if you want to roll out Raheem Mostert, please go ahead and do that. I think that's going to be a really, really attractive play. If you want to play him in your flex this week, that's going to be really good, I think. Again, some of these guys we drafted early that have been disappointing in the last couple of weeks, Mixon, Paul, Chubb, like you got to just kind of stay with those guys. Those guys are all RB1s in season-long format, and you have to just kind of plug your nose. I don't think this is the time to be plugging in like a Tyler Algier for like a Nick Chubb or a Joe Mixon. You just can't do that right now. I think you'd really be kicking yourself if you did something like that. Zach Moss, if you picked him up this week, I think he's a great RB2 option versus the Chargers. My only issue there is that I think the Chargers could maybe blow them out. So I don't know how much run Zach Moss is specifically going to get when it comes to that. Let's pop over to wide receivers here, and we'll take a look at our wide receiver rankings as well. I've got my wide receivers ranked as follows for the week. Let me get up here. Come on. There it goes. Obviously, it's going to be, for me, here's how the points shake out. Where's Diggs? Oh, he's right here. For me, I've got my guys ranked: Jefferson, Diggs, Hill, St. Brown, Devontae Adams, Jamar Chase, CeeDee Lamb, Chris Godwin, DK Metcalf, AJ Brown down at number 10 just because of the Minshew, I guess, downgrade. T. Higgins and Jalen Waddle. So, I mean, this is going to be, I think, a really good week. I think Burrow is going to have to throw the ball quite a bit this week. I don't think that New England is going to allow them to kind of run the ball. And New England, let's face it, doesn't have the greatest defense that they have had over the last few years. So I do like both of the Bengals wide receivers this week. All these guys are, wide receiver one starts. I'm going to get down here to some of these other guys. Guys like Christian Watson, who I think that, he's an interesting projection. I think that I might probably prefer playing Romeo Doubs at probably, wide receiver 3, flex kind of a play. Deontay Johnson versus the Raiders, I think, is an interesting play. Now, he didn't practice Wednesday. I'll be interested to see if he practices today. T. Higgins also, he was a full participant, so that's good. Amari Cooper, look, didn't practice Wednesday. He's one of those, been fringe wide receiver 2, wide receiver 1s. I think if he's active, you just have to play him just based on the volume he's been getting. DeAndre Hopkins with Trace McSorley throwing him the ball this week really, really concerns me. I don't like this base projection. I don't think that, I think it's I think there are better plays. Number one being Jakobi Meyers in season long. If Jakobi Meyers is active going up against the Bengals, I personally would play him over a guy like DeAndre Hopkins. And that's just me. Doesn't have to be for you, but I would play Myers as kind of one of my more favorite plays this week. We've got no Debo again this week, so I think Brandon Ayuk is a great play in season long. DJ Moore, obviously, if you have him, you're starting him. I get that he hasn't produced consistently, but he's getting most of the volume in that offense. I think Richie James, personally, is an interesting play. Now, one of the ways that I like to use Run the Sims as a season-long kind of identifier is you start to see some of these guys that are priced basically like a wide receiver 4 or a 5, like Curtis Samuel right next to Devonta Smith. They have a very similar projection this week, right? But everyone probably owns Devonta Smith. You might be able to go out and find Curtis Samuel just kind of sitting around on the waiver wire. And if you need to plug somebody in a deeper league, or if you have some injuries at the wide receiver position, Curtis Samuel and Richie James are going to be viable guys that you can go pick up and play this week. And you're probably going to have to as well, right? Start scrolling down the list. Cortland Sutton looks like he got in a limited practice. Mr. Unlimited apparently is going to play this week, Russell Wilson. So if you have Cortland Sutton and you need to plug him back into a wide receiver 2 kind of a situation, I think you can absolutely do that. Gabe Davis and George Pickens, these guys are guys that are probably owned. I don't love Gabe this week just because the wins in Chicago are going to be a little bit high. I think it's one of those things where, he really thrives off the deep ball. And it's going to be a little bit tough for that this week. But it's really hard to sit Gabe just because he does have that spike ability, right? George Pickens, Kenny Pickett's going to be back, I believe, for the Steelers this week. They are playing the Raiders. Raiders are not very good. So, yeah, I think that Kenny Pickett's a guy. Here, let me go to my latest report. Kenny Pickett, concussion, likely playing this week. So, if Pickett plays, I'm fine to go back to Pickens as a wide receiver 3, or like even like a multi-flex type of play this week. Getting down here, these are all guys that I think that Terrence Marshall's interesting. Paris Campbell, Noah Brown. I know he got the touchdown last week. Um, these are all guys that are real stretches to play, in my opinion. Um, the one guy I wanted to talk about down here is Marquise Goodwin. Widely available out there in leagues. He is going to be the second option this week for Geno Smith playing the Chiefs. So I think Marquise Goodwin's a really good option. We saw him have a couple of spike weeks. I really like him in that game. Really similar to how I liked like KJ Osborne last week as a flex play. I think he's another interesting play. I don't know if you want to play him this week, but yeah, you can kind of go from there. McCole Hardman could be an interesting play. I don't know why Romeo Doubs has such a low projection. I mean, he's being actively utilized in the offense. So I think he's a fine wide receiver 3 or a flex play versus Miami in what I think is going to be a pretty high scoring game. Spoiler alert for the show later tonight. I like the Packers stack quite a bit. If you want to go that route in DFS this week, I think it's going to be very, very interesting. That's about it. Treylon Burks is going to be interesting, but again, he's got Malik Willis. I don't think that they're going to have to throw the ball a whole bunch. So let's move on to tight end. Obviously, for season long, if you have some of these guys up here, you're just starting them. Freiermuth is a guy that I know a lot of people have and haven't been starting. He's playing the Raiders, and if you're kind of waffling between him and like I don't know, somebody else, I think you're fine playing Freiermuth this week. I really like him in my season-long rankings. I have him ranked number 4. I do have, just so you know, my top 12, Kelsey, Ingram, Kittle, Freiermuth, Hawkinson, Njoku, Waller, Cole Kmet, Schultz, Mark Andrews, Dallas Goedert, Hayden Hurst. Those are the top guys that I like this week. I've got no interest in Tyler Higbee. I mean, I get it. The sim here really doesn't like George Kittle a whole lot. I'm not really sure why. Also, Evan Ingram, I think is a fantastic tight end play this week. I think he's somebody you have to probably prioritize with the way that the Jets defense works. They're most susceptible over the middle. So I think Ingram and Christian Kirk are going to be the 2 most viable passing options in that offense this week. Other than that, you shouldn't have to play a whole lot of people. If you're in like a double tight end or like a tight end premium league, I think Tyler Conklin is an interesting play for you. And then obviously we have Darren Waller, who I don't know why he has such a low projection against Pittsburgh, but I definitely like him quite a bit. I have him ranked as my number 7 tight end this week. We're talking about, if you play in a league where defense is somebody that you need to start, some kind of flyers out there, like if you've just been streaming, obviously if you can go get the Bucks, go get the Bucks. Same with the Titans, but those 2 are likely picked up. I don't hate the Panthers versus Detroit. I know it's going to be a little bit more of a high-scoring game, but if you can get a pick 6 from Goff or something like that, I think that is something that could be pretty interesting. Those are the kind of the streamers I would go after. Man, it's probably tough out there. Broncos versus the Baker Mayfield-led Rams. I think you could probably go out and pick them up. Chiefs, I think, is somebody you could probably go out and pick up and play against Seattle at home. Yeah, that's kind of it. Again, for defense, like if you're streaming, look at where you're going to have pretty good passing situations. And then guys like the Patriots against like Burrow, who takes a lot of sacks, it could be a nice situation as well. So that's about it, guys. I just kind of want to run through and run down, my favorite plays and some of the guys that, I think are a little bit sneaky this week. My favorite pickup that's probably available out there, again, is going to be Marquise Goodwin, wide receiver. Most of these other guys are all going to be owned. And again, just play your studs. If you're asking, should I sit AJ Brown because Minshew? No, just play AJ Brown, please. Like, this isn't the time in the season to make a weird decision to try and go with somebody and get galaxy brain on yourself, right? So, hey, good luck. Thank you, everybody. Give us a follow. JJ McIntosh on Twitter. Shoot me, any questions you guys have. We will do a start sit tomorrow morning. So you guys are, if you're still just kind of going back and forth on a few things, but pay attention to all of the information out there. It looks like our injury picture is going to be pretty clear by the time this weekend rolls around. So that's a really good thing. And, like I said, I'll just say this again, just play your studs. Right now is not the time to go, off the reservation and play some random dude over a guy who's been producing for you all year. Don't worry about the Christian McCaffrey, is questionable. Like, he's going to play. If you have Christian McCaffrey, you're playing him, right? So good luck, everybody, and have a Merry Christmas.